Hello and welcome back to the Obsessive Maker podcast. If you haven't been here before, my name is Sian and I'm coming to you from Melbourne, Australia. It's currently a lovely sunny autumn day and this is my space here on the internet where I like to share with you everything that I'm making. I mainly knit and sew, and sometimes I like to dabble with other things. Probably many other things. I very much subscribe to the jack of all trades, master of none, or all the gear and no idea. Although that's not always the case. I like to have all the gear and I like to at least try and have an idea. So here we are. It's March and I had intended to film a podcast in February, but to be honest, the month got away from me and here we are mid-March and I'm finally getting around to it. Life has been pretty hectic. We still have my in-laws living with us. They have immigrated to Australia and we're just helping getting them settled. Work's been really busy and you know, life just kind of catches up. So I know I'm not here to make excuses, but you know, life is life. Stuff goes on. And yeah, I don't know about you, but I always feel like my work week just flies by. And then come the weekend, there's always those obligations to, you know, go to do the grocery shop, clean the house, run errands, blah, 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 blah. And then, yeah, here we are, mid-March. I've rambled on enough about that. I am clearly out of practice because I had planned to make this a really nice intro. This is my third time recording it. And yeah, this is the first proper podcast of the year, I just realized. The last few episodes have been about my plans for 2023 and kind of covering off on those. And so here I find myself with an abundance of things to share with you. And I have to say that so far, 2023 has been the year of cast-ons. But I'll come to that in a second. So, where should we start? I think I might start off by telling you how my year of no buy is going so far. We are mid-March and I can faithfully say to you, I have bought neither yarn or fabric since the end of December. I have been tempted many, many times, but I have been strong. And instead of putting my energy into being distracted by all of the fancy new purchases I could make, I've been taking stock of my stashes and really falling back in love with everything that I have. So really, all of my cast-ons have been about appreciating things already in my stash. I will just say that, I don't know, the universe has a way of bringing things to you. When I said I wanted to go no buy, I meant that I wasn't going to buy things myself. However, it has not stopped people giving me their yarn. So, when was it? I think it was back in January or February, my aunt told me that she was going to give up knitting. She could no longer do it because of her hands, and so she was gifting me all of her yarn stash. Now, there was quite a bit, and my mother was visiting her at the time, so Mum went through it all and figured out what things I would like and left out the things that she didn't think I would use, and only brought home with her things she thought I would use. I will show you all of that later in what would normally be the yarn haul or the acquisitions section of this, but I just want to let you know it's quite a bit, and I'm so thankful to my aunt. Thank you very much. It will be loved and used, and there are some yarns in there that immediately sparked some inspiration for me, and I'm dying to get my hands on those. but I have so many things on the needles that I need to get finished first, really. So in terms of like taking stock of all my yarn, I have been tracking my stash, not consistently, but I have been doing it on an app that I use for my fabric stash. There have been times where I've forgotten to put things in there. So what I've done over the last month is I've got all my yarn out of the vacuum pack bags that I had used to put them away while we have the guests. And I went through everything. I took photos of those things that are missing from my current yarn stash catalog. Let's call it a catalog. And, and I decided to use the stash function in Ravelry. I previously wasn't really aware of this function in Ravelry, but I watched Caroline's Knits, and she had, I think, uploaded all of hers there, and it produced a spreadsheet to show her exactly how much she had, how many grams, how many skeins, how many meters. And I was like, why aren't I using this? I already have a way of tracking it, but it'd be so much more useful if I just took the time to upload it all into Ravelry. I can then assign the yarns to my projects, and then I can figure out what I'm actually using as the year progresses. If I really want to do this no-buy and use yarn from my stash, I'd like to, at the end of the year, see how much I've used. So I have gone ahead and I have uploaded almost all of my stash to my Ravelry profile. And I say almost all because there are a few items that I've kind of forgotten about, like the odd ball of half-used sock yarn or mini skeins, which I don't think are worth actually putting in there. But in terms of like sweater quantities or multiple balls of things, I've put them all in there, and I'll be able to track and track that as I use it. So it really made me aware of what I have. And as I was kind of like going through my stash, I started to come up with ideas for how to use it, and inspiration struck in many areas. And I'm the type of person that gets really excited about something when I first think of it, and I want to just get my teeth stuck in and get it started. And usually that kind of burns out pretty quickly and I lose interest. So with those things that I was like super excited about, I cast them on. And for the other things that I just don't have the time or the needles to cast on right now, they're just going to have to wait. And if I still have enthusiasm for them in say 2 months or a month's time, that's great. But I really have to just only take on as much as I can handle. So yes, I'm overwhelmed. I have to say, I'm overwhelmed by everything I have in front of me. There's too much. So I'm just going to focus right now on finished objects. And I honestly can't remember if I showed these to you previously. I'm pretty sure I haven't shared them yet on the podcast. But I finished a pair of socks. Ta-da! These are the Summerly Knits sailor sock set. No, they're not. Apologies. They're the Thicksgiving sock set. And I really enjoyed knitting these. I held 2 fingering weight yarns together, and it's the first time I've ever done a proper turned heel, and I have to say it is magic. It's magic. I never knew that something I could never really get my head around the first time I read it would turn out to be something so exciting to do. So yes, I knit up these Thicksgiving socks in a combination of yarns. I used some Scheepjes Metropolis, I think that's how you say it, Scheepjes Metropolis, in the colorway Monterey, held together with Maximoo yarns, this one. So Maximoo, this is the very first hand-dyed skein of yarn that I ever bought. So Max, if you're watching, you were my gateway drug to knitting. It's all your fault. Anyway, so I have used this and frogged it many times, and finally I got round to using it. So I held this together with the sheeps and also with Sandnes Garn. I'm terrible at actually remembering these, but this color of Sandnes Garn, it's a 4-ply. I think it's the Sunday. Sunday by Sandnes Garn. Anyway, so it was these 3 yarns held together to make these socks. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed making this DK weight sock more than I enjoyed making the colorwork little boxes socks that I made last year. These are my handmade coat hanger sock blockers. They're slightly odd, but all feet are odd feet, so you know, they fit my feet, it's fine. So that's those. But yeah, who knew a turned heel could be so exciting? I was super excited about that. So yeah, I like the socks. I liked knitting them. I haven't got around to wearing them yet because it's only just autumn. We're still getting warm days, but the nights are cooler, so I probably will start wearing them soon. But I think they're really cute with the low contrast cuff, the color change. So I really like those. I think I might knit more DK socks in the future. But you know, other things kind of came up, and I'd planned on knitting a few more of these, but I got distracted by the penny gloves by Petite Knit. And I had a gorgeous 4-ply, I think it was called Red Clay, in my stash from A Makers Burrow, and she's a dyer who lives here in Victoria, and I met her in person at the Bendigo Sheep Show. And let me put these on. Ta-da! These are my Petite Knit penny gloves in the Makers Burrow Red Clay, and also Knitting for Olive's soft silk mohair in the colorway Dusty Rose. I bought a couple of balls of that last year just to try out with some other yarns I had in my stash, and this really was the perfect yarn mohair pairing. It's coming up a lot lighter for me on my not phone screen, on my camera screen than in real life, but hopefully the color balance will work out when I download this video. But yeah, they really are kind of like a red clay, really kind of soft, neutral. I know it's not really my color for holding against my face, but I think they're beautiful for gloves. I actually knit these 12 centimeters shorter than the pattern suggested. And the reason I did that is because I don't need my forearms to be warm because the winters here aren't that cold, but I do get cold hands, and these are perfect for just, yeah, going out for walks and stuff. But also I did want to save the rest of the yarn for another pair of socks, another pair of Summerly Knits socks from her Sailor sock set, and they are the DK mohair and fingering broken rib socks. Tell you what, my memory is failing me today, so thank you for bearing with me. So those are my finished objects, 2 accessories, and I'm okay with that. It's not too bad, and I'm using up my stash, which is great. Moving on from my finished objects, I want to talk about frogs and fixes. So in my wardrobe, I had this Wednesday slipover. What am I doing? I had this weekend slipover by Petite Knit that I just wasn't wearing because I'd knitted it too long, and also I'd knitted it to pattern, but I really, after wearing it a few times, I really wanted a split hem. So I had marked up where I wanted to frog back to. So I frogged back to, hang on, I'm going to hold it up properly. At the underarm, here we go, I'd frogged back to here. So I'd lost about that much length. And then I just split the hem and knit back and forth in rib. And I'm really glad that I went ahead and frogged it and re-knit the hem, because I have worn this several times already on the unseasonably cold days we've had in the last month. And it is a much better length. It looks so much better cropped because it is oversized. I should have probably knit a smaller size. And I'm learning that with the Petite Knit patterns is I always end up choosing the size suggested for me, but I should knit a size smaller. Anyway, I'm wearing it a lot more now, and I don't know if you have been following along on Instagram, but I had these cost per wear labels made, and I decided to put one in this because it's something that I did want to wear more often. And I wanted to see if the amount I spent on yarn was worth it for the cost per wear. And it's also a great way just to track the number of wears of a garment as well. And where are they? Here we go. Here we go. That is one of my cost per wear labels. I've put them on some of my handmade items already, items that I have worn quite a lot, and some of my newer makes as well, which are trousers. And it is quite eye-opening to see how many times we reach for the things that we make. So that's also part of my goal this year, is to kind of be more conscious of what I wear and to make clothes that kind of align with what my actual needs are. And I'm pretty sure I covered off on that in my why I'm going no buy for 2023 video. So yes, so I got these labels made. I'm keeping a bundle for myself, but I got quite a few made and I am selling them on my Ko-Fi shop. If you'd like the link for that, I'll put it in the description below, but it's also accessible via my Instagram profile Linktree. So if you'd like to get your hands on some of these lovely Makers cost per wear trackers, then go ahead and check that out. And yeah, I'm currently only making them available to Australian residents just because of the shipping, but if you are interested in them and you're international, please do leave a comment below and maybe we can work something out. Okay, anywho, so I frogged and I fixed my weekend slipover by Petite Knit, and I'm so glad I did that. So it just goes to show, with all the time and energy that you spend and also the resources that you put into making something, it really is worth trying to fix it if you're not happy with it. And the good thing with knitting is that you can do that by just frogging it and turning it into something new, or just making the modifications that you wanted. Sewing, it's a little different, but it's still worth doing if you can. I do have about that much yarn left over from my frogging of that project, but I'm going to use this for another project that I'll talk about in a minute. So I decided it was time to let go of a whip that I've been working on for a while. And so I ended up frogging it. And if you remember, I was making the Badger and Bloom sweater by Anne Venzel. And as much as I love the design, I love the one by one color work. It looks great on so many people. It just wasn't working out for me for multiple reasons. I'd messed up the order of the color work while I was knitting it, and it got to a point where I had to kind of fudge it, and if I wanted to continue, I had to fudge the color work to make it work for me. But also there was a part of it, it's the first increases around the neck that I really wasn't happy with. It made it like a bit of a funnel neck, and it just didn't look right when I tried it on. So after trying on the yoke, not liking the funnel neck, and also realizing that the colorwork design didn't actually suit me, I looked at a little bit like a giant target. I decided just to frog the damn thing. And I'm going to reuse the yarn for another Anne Venzel project. It's going to be the sailor sweater, because I have been wanting to knit that thing for ages. But the thing that put me off was the size range. It's very limited, and going by my measurements, I fall into the largest or just above the largest size in her size range. And part of me was like frustrated and a bit angry that I'd already bought the pattern without realizing that. And also, I don't really want to support someone who hasn't extended their size range, but I still love the pattern and I've already paid for it. And I'd seen a couple of people on Instagram make the sailor sweater who are similar size to me, and I reached out to them to ask for their feedback, and they told me that it was worth giving it a go because they knitted the largest size, and they said it more than fit them. It was actually quite big on them. Maybe that was their gauge, but they said just to give it a go because the sizing was quite generous. Even though, okay, so even though the comment was that sizing was quite generous, I went back in Ravelry and had a look at some of the comments for that pattern, and it asked if the sizes, the measurements given on the pattern are actual body measurements or they're the finished garment measurements. And they said one of Anne Venzel's representatives, or the people that she works with, said they were the finished garment measurements. So I've been in two minds about it. I've just decided to give it a go though, because I really love the color combination of these two yarns. This is an undyed merino possum from a company in New Zealand. I have quite a few skeins of this that I bought last year with the intention to dye them, but maybe I still will. I don't know. We'll see. But for this particular project, I'm going to hold this as is with this lovely pale indigo dyed fin sheep wool. And this is one that I got from the Bendigo Sheep Show last year. Just trying to find the label. I had it here a second ago. There. That's it there. So I wish I'd bought like a whole sweater quantity of this. And in hindsight, it probably totally would have been worth it. But I was just a bit put off by the price at the time. I think it was $60 for 200 grams. And in my head, I was like, oh, $60 for a skein, that's a lot of money. But it was 200 grams, so $30 per 100 grams. That's not too bad, given that most like hand dyed skeins are about 35 to 45. Anywho, we can't regret the things we've done in the past. So yes, so that's what I want to do with these two. So I'm glad I frogged it because I would never have worn it. And this is too precious not to be wearable. So yeah, I think they'll be lovely together, and I do think they will work very well in the sailor sweater. And I'm pretty sure I took a little photo of just like a yarn wrapping. I wrapped some yarn around some cardboard just to check to see if the stripes would work out quite well, and they did. So I'm just going to take a little break, a little sip of a drink break. Right, I'm rehydrated. Moving on. That's all I fixed and frogged so far, but I'm excited. I'm excited to cast on the sailor sweater. So I can't do that though until I've finished at least half of my whips. And this has truly so far been the year of cast-ons. As I said, I've been finding inspiration in my stash, coming across yarns and going, oh, it's such a great idea. I could use these for this, and oh, you know, I could do that for that, and wouldn't it be cool to do this with that? Where to start? Let me tell you how many whips I have. I think I'm one short. Hang on. I have 7 whips. I think there's another one that I'm missing out on. I gotta check my Ravelry queue for that. Hang on 1 second. Yes, I have 8. I have 8 whips. One is long languishing and I have just packed it away for now because I'm not going to touch it until winter it has fully set in. So we are just going to deal with the ones that I have in front of me. So I did say I wanted to use up the rest of this yarn combo for something, and that was for the Summerlee Knits Broken Rib DK socks. And I have started that. It's been, so far, it has been a fantastic commute knit. So I have it in my little pouch here. And it's just something that I can throw in my work backpack and knit with on the train. I think I've got to the point now where I'm about to kind of split for the turned heel. So that's where I'm at with that. This is just sock number 1. I do enjoy how stretchy that broken rib is. I didn't expect that. This is the first time I've knit broken rib, and I do like it. Anyway, so that's, we'll just call that whip 1. The next thing I'm working on, well, I should say still working on, is the Amy slipover, which is a Sandnes Garn pattern, and I've been knitting it up in the Wagtail Yarns Merino mohair 5-ply, and I have progressed further. I had a period where I was madly knitting on this. So I've finished the back. I finished the back panel. I've picked up the stitches at the shoulder to create the neck, and now I am working on the front. So I haven't got too much further to go on the front, probably another 24 centimeters before I begin the rib, and then I'll have to pick up stitches around the neck to then knit the big kind of fold over turtleneck on that. So I will just continue chipping away at it. I haven't been as quick working on it just because it's on 3.5mm needles, which is not a comfortable needle size for me. And there's a lot of purling involved as well, which again is not a comfortable thing for me to do. I have been knitting on it on the train, but it does shed quite a bit. So the yarn I bought for this is actually an older type. It's an older production from Wagtail Yarns, and it's a mix of fine mohair and mohair, older mohair as well. So it has shed quite a bit, so I don't really want to shed on people on the train. So I've relegated this to the knit at home pile, and I will slowly get there, finishing it. But I'm actually holding it in this really cute project bag that A Makers Burrow made as well. So at the time I bought this yarn, I actually bought this project bag as well, and she's hand stitched that, and look at the cute little teapot that she's stitched on there as well. It's just adorable. It's a really beautifully made project bag, and it's lined with some gingham linen as well. It's just so cute. So I am finally using this project bag, and sorry, it's shedding all over me again.
I'm not sure I understand.
Siri wants to pipe in there too. Okay. Siri likes to butt in every now and then. Anyway, so yes, I really do hope though that this yarn doesn't shed as much once I've finished knitting it and washing and blocking. I'm a little bit concerned about that because it is shedding quite a bit, but hopefully it will have shed all of its fluff by then and it'll be okay to wear. So that is whip number 2. There we go. Whip number 3. It is a fairly long languishing whip as well. I got all excited in December when one of my knitting buddies who comes along to our monthly knit group, she decided to knit up a summer ranunculus. And so I was like, I can totally jump on that bandwagon. I've got some yarn in my stash. Let's do this. It can't take that long, surely. So yeah, so I knitted up in this Holst Garn Coast, which is a 50-50 wool cotton blend, and it's 2 strands held together to make a DK weight, and I'm knitting it on 5mm needles. So I've made some adjustments to the pattern and it does fit. I can't remember what adjustments I made. I think I just continued to make increases at the underarm until I got the fit that I wanted. And now I just need to knit the body, really. I don't know what I'm waiting for, but I should just get on with it really and get it done. Summer's pretty much over, autumn is here, but this would be a nice kind of layer for autumn or next spring. Yeah. But I think the reason why I haven't actually continued knitting on it is because I haven't enjoyed the yarn. I mean, it feels fine once it's knit up, but actually knitting with it, it's not the feel that I want, if you know what I mean. Well, it's not the feel that I'm enjoying. I don't enjoy the feel of it. And so that's why I haven't really picked it up. I could probably bang out the rest of this during this week, but we'll see. We'll see. I've got other things I'm excited to knit on, so we'll get there. It'll be done by spring anyway. That's the main thing. So, okay. The next 2 things I got the next 2 things are things that I got really excited about making when I was going through my stash, and I'm going to start with this one here. I had some leftover silk mohair from Wishbone yarn, and I used this in my Illuminate sweater. It was held together with some undyed silk mohair, and it was just beautiful, and I thought it'd be great to use this in a knit where I could knit it together with some undyed merino, and then it would kind of have that slight denim-y feel, that because the colorway is Boro Blue, and Boro is the Japanese technique of mending and patching, and mainly with denim and like sashiko thread, which is either white or blue. It could be any color really, but that's the name of the colorway, and I thought they just look great knitted together. So I found a project. I found a pattern that would utilize the amount of mohair that I had left, and it's a slipover. And well, it's actually not a slipover, it's basically a dicky, a neck, you know, the ones with the front and the back flaps and a collar. So I thought it'd be a great trans-seasonal garment, and I know I had identified those as some of the things that I needed in my wardrobe for this year. And so I started knitting the Cozy Cowl by Anne Venzel. I love the design. I love the stitch pattern. It's reminiscent of, I think, those kind of knit pearl textured sweaters that My Favorite Things Knitwear and Petite Knit have been designing. I think Sandnes Garn brought out one as well, but I just really like the design of this. And I'll put a photo in here to show you what it'll actually look like when it's finished. But I love the color combination and the texture that's being created here. I just really think this is a beautiful project, and it's a neutral for me. So I could wear it with anything really. So once it's done, it'll be beautiful. I am making some modifications to it to fit me because it's a one size fits all. And so what I decided to do is to make it wider for my body. I added 2 extra stitches on either side of the stitch pattern, and I'm knitting it slightly longer to go over my bust. So yes, that's pretty much all I'm doing though. I do have to say, I've got to the difficult bit though. It's the bit where you start kind of like making stitches and knitting them together to kind of create this diagonal stitch pattern towards the neck. And these are like the knit purl rows kind of coming in towards the neck. And I have frogged and reknit this section here 3 times already. And I think it's just one of those things that once you get the hang of it, you'll get into the flow. And you just got to do it and continue on, push through the challenge, and you'll get there. So I have tried reading what I tend to do with my sewing patterns is I read them off my phone, the PDF version. I either read them off my phone or I read them off my tablet. The problem with that though is when the phone goes to sleep, you have to open it back up and it's zoomed out of the section that you were working on, and you kind of have to figure out where you are. So what I've done now is, I haven't printed it off because I'm going to try not to print things off, is I've just taken a screenshot, and so now I can actually go in and I can mark up and tick off the bits that I've done, and I'm hoping that will help me keep track of where I'm at and not mess it up. But I really love this, and I think it'll be beautiful once it's finished. I just have to push through the challenging bit. Mohair fluff everywhere. This is going to be super soft as well because it's got 2 strands of mohair, and the halo on this thing is just delicious. Anyway, enough about that. There is mohair everywhere. Right. Okay, that was whip number 4. Yes, number 4. Going on to whip number 5. It's a recent cast on. It's another commute whip, and I just had to cast it on straight away because inspiration struck and I was like, damn, I need this now. So I present to you my neon sailor beanie, and this is a Sari Nordlund pattern, and this is the sailor beanie, and it is beautiful. It's kind of blown out a bit on my camera screen, but it is these 2 yarns held together. The top mohair here is lovely little yarns glow up colorway that I got back in December, and this is Maximoo yarns lava flow colorway in his super soft sock. So I think it has like 10% cashmere. I think it's got 10% cashmere. It's got cashmere in it anyway. And together they're just the most delicious neon corally orange, and I can't wait to wear this for winter. it's just amazing. Every time I bring it out on the train as well to knit on, I get looks of people going, oh, that's so cool. And then the more kind of courageous people, generally older women who probably knit themselves, always ask me what I'm working on. But yeah, it's so cool. I love it. I can't wait to finish it and wear it. And if I have anything left over, maybe I'll make a pair of gloves to match. But the pattern does say it needs about 400 meters, 400 and something meters. So I'll probably end up using the whole lot, although it is a triple folded brim. And I'm not sure I want triple fold on this. So I might just do like one fold so that I'm folding the brim up. I think that'll be toasty and warm enough for me and for Australian winters. So yes, love it. Super excited about these. I know when I bought them, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But like I said, inspiration struck, and here we are with a neon beanie. I know there are a lot of people making that bright pink one that Justin Bieber wore. And yeah, I love a pink one, but isn't this so much better? Is it La Bien-Aimée has brought out a knitwear book called Neons and Neutrals. So a bit of neon in my life. I did want to knit and sew some neutrals and some basics this year, so I think a neon kind of fits into that category as well. Yeah, I'm just going to say it does regardless. So yes, I love working on that one as well. And I'm not going to say finally because we're almost there. The final knit project is my classic sweater by Espace Tricot. And it is taking forever to knit this thing. This is it here. I'm knitting this with Holst Garn in the colorway Mariner, which is like a navy blue with flecks of green. And I'm holding it together with Filcolana Tilia in the colorway Cobalt. And I think it'll be beautiful. One thing I am a little concerned about is this neckline. I think the suggested needles for me were maybe too big a gauge. I think I'm going to have to go back and knit this at a tighter gauge because the overall sweater is turning out rather larger than I expected. And I have knit, almost finished one sleeve, and I got to the point where you start the ribbing in the same needle size as the sleeve. And I wasn't feeling it. So I think I'm going to rip back, knit the sleeve a teensy bit longer. I do need to try this on, but then I'm going to decrease at the start of the cuff because I really kind of want a tighter cuff. I don't want a cuff that hangs open because I'm the type of person that gets their cuffs and their sleeves caught on every doorknob, and I just don't want that to happen. So I think once it's finished, it'll be great. But I still have a lot to go. So that's where I'm at for the body. I haven't actually knit much of the body. Yeah, maybe what? Maybe about 8 centimeters of the body so far. So yeah, I still have quite a bit to go. And I think this is definitely going to be an oversized project. But I think it'll be a really nice neutral, a wardrobe basic for me for winter. Blue is one of those basic kind of neutral colours. And I'm excited to see what the Holst Garn does once it's been washed and blocked. Because at the moment it looks like it's a fairly loose gauge, but I hear that it does fluff up quite a bit and kind of like fill in the gaps. So yeah, I'm excited to see what that'll look like once that's done. I hope to have it done by the next time I film a podcast, but I'm not going to promise anything because I have a lot to work on. So that is the 6th whip. So we get to the final one, and I am going to introduce to you my latest skill that I have learnt. I'm not, a professional by any means, but I did say to myself this year I wanted to learn to crochet a granny stripe blanket. I was so mesmerized by all of the granny stripe blankets that I've seen people, see people crochet over the Vlogmas period. And one of my knitting group buddies, Kath, she is working on one herself, and every time I see her post about it, I am just envious as hell. So, so I promised myself this year I would learn to crochet a granny stripe blanket. I discovered loads of unloved skeins. Okay, maybe not, that's a bit dramatic to say, but I discovered a few unused sock skeins in my stash. Some of them I had attempted to use, others I just didn't know what to do with because I wasn't really knitting socks. And so this is the perfect project for them. I also do have some leftovers of things. I keep all of my leftovers in a bag, and I went through them all the other day with a view to actually putting them to use in this granny stripe blanket. And I watched a few YouTube videos. I actually had a crochet hook for a DK weight, so I had a 4mm hook already that I literally solely used for picking up drop stitches in my knitting. But I had to play around. I cast on, hooked on or chained on a swatch of a granny stripe and got into the rhythm of the hooking and how to hold the yarn in my left hand, which as a right-handed English thrower was really strange. And yeah, I'm still learning how to get the right tension by holding the yarn in my left hand and the hook in my right, but I think I'm getting there. So I started a granny stripe blanket. I asked my knitting buddy Kath how many stitches I should cast on or chain on, and of course I forgot, so I decided to do 255, which if you're doing a cluster of 3, so I don't really know all the terminology, but basically it works out to be, I think, 85 clusters in width, which I think is wide enough for probably like a single bed, which is not what I was intending. I just wanted to do a lap blanket. But hey, this is where we're at now, and I've done 1, 2, 3. I've done 3.5 stripes, and I'm using up some of those things in my stash. So this first one here is Candyland DK by Maximoo yarns. This second one is some leftover of Kindred Red's crystalline 4-ply. I held that double. The third stripe here is again Maximoo yarns, and that's a 4-ply in the colorway Main Ridge. And then now I'm on my third stripe, and I'm using some of this leftover Scheepjes 4-ply with some leftover singles that I used on my mum's shawl a while back. And if I run out of that, I've got the rest of the shawl yarn to use as well to hold double. So this is I'm thoroughly enjoying this. I didn't think I would enjoy crochet this much, and it's pretty quick. I have invested quite a lot of time in this already, but I love the fact that you can just crochet a couple of clusters, I think they're called, and you can just do a few at a time, or yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm getting there. So that's how far I've got. I honestly, at this point, I can't see myself diving into the world of crochet garments or things like that. Never say never though, but for now I'm just thoroughly enjoying working on my granny stripe blanket. Well, at the moment it's a granny stripe belt, but when I first started it, my husband called it a shoelace, but that was just the foundation chain. So that ends the list of my cast-ons and my whips. So they are all things that I'm currently working on actively. The one thing I didn't bring out and show you, which you've seen before, is the Wildflowers Path sweater by Melody Hoffman that I'm knitting up in New Teden. And I put it away because I had it sitting in a basket for ages. I just didn't want bugs getting into it and crawling through it. So it's stashed away in a cloth bag with some lavender. And yep, here it is actually. Cloth bag, that's it there. Would you like to see what my aunt gave me? This is what I'd like to call manifesting yarn. So because I've sworn off buying my own yarn this year, I somehow manifested this free yarn from my aunt, and it was very, very generous of her. I had a wonderful time going through it all when my mum first gave it to me. It was literally a garbage bag full of yarn. So I've gone through it all, I've sorted it all out into sweater quantities and types of yarn. So I'll just bring out what, like one piece of each of them just to show you. But there's some really lovely colors and a couple of sweater quantities. I think there's 3 sweater quantities there. But the first thing from the bag is this Bendigo Woolen Mills 8 ply. I think it's an 8 ply. It's I can't remember the name of the yarn, but it's kind of like a chain, it's spun in like a chain or something, or is it a crepe? I think it's a crepe yarn. That's what it is. It's an 8 ply crepe yarn. It's 100% wool. It's, I think it's machine washable. So this would be a super wash. Yeah, pretty sure it's kind of like, it's Bendigo Woolen Mills version of a superwash. So you wouldn't want to run it through the washing machine, but you could do it on a gentle cycle. So I got a sweater quantity of this, and it works out to about 800 grams, which is more than a sweater quantity for me. But yeah, I'll be able to do lots with this. And I have some mohair in my stash already that I think would match this and go well with this. So that's an option. Oh, okay. Now, this is a bag of mohair. I won't bring everything out, but there is like a cone of bright purple mohair, and this is like thick mohair. So I think this is wool and mohair. I can't be 100% certain, but it's definitely mohair in there. And then I've got like balls of this type here, and then some black, and this is probably considered vintage mohair at this stage. But it's still usable. And so I've got all sorts of different things and colors in there. I've got like a pale purple, more black. I've got some red in there as well. It's just a whole bag of odds and ends of mohair. So I've got to find a use for those. Maybe I can crochet them into a blanket. We have yardage. I've got another sweater quantity of these two colors. So apparently this was for a striped jumper. Now these are pure new wool with, I'm not sure what the white flecks are. I'm assuming they're wool, but it's the Peyton's Hardwick 8 ply, and it's a kind of burgundy purple and a forest green. So I've got about 800 grams of those two colors combined. Excuse all the rustling. I put everything into like an IKEA storage brick carton thing. It's one of those zip up ones. Okay, the next one I'm going to show you, I'm very excited about this, and this is the one I was talking about earlier, where inspiration struck and I was like, yes, I want to use this with this, and my battery just died. Hello, I'm back. Clearly my camera thinks I've been going on long enough because it decided to die on me. So we're going to try and finish this episode here on my camera. On my phone, on my camera phone. So I was talking about the last yarn in the stash my auntie gave me, and it is this one here. I was super excited about this. I saw the color and I was just like, wow. This is like an emerald, like a jewel emerald green. I don't know if it's coming up as kind of saturated and bright on camera as it is in real life, but it is just delightful, and I just love the color of the ball band as well, and I think the two colors together would make the most perfect color work combination. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, how can I make this work? I have some mohair in my stash that I could hold with another yarn, this color. So the mohair I'm using for the beanie, I have another one very similar, and it kind of gives a brightness and neon to it, and I can dye up some of my undyed yarn in a coral colorway, which is what I did for my tulip sweater from last year, the year before. It's in one of my previous episodes. But yeah, I think I can replicate this color with some of the yarn in my stash, a little bit of Rit dye, and a mohair held with it. So I would really like to knit this up as a color work. And so I'm waiting for the universe to manifest a coordinating mohair for this color, because I knit up a swatch of this yarn. It is another crepe yarn, so it's not the texture that I'm used to. It is a vintage yarn, and I went to Morris & Sons, which is the local yarn store in Melbourne, and I asked one of the women there, like, how does this like wash and wear? Does this kind of fluff up a little bit, or is it always going to have this texture? And she told me that at one point in Australian yarn history, all yarns, well, the majority of yarns were crepe yarn. She doesn't have much experience of them, of knitting with them, but she doesn't think it will change much once it's kind of washed and blocked. So I thought, well, one way I could make it work is by knitting it with a coordinating mohair. So as I said, I'm waiting for the universe to manifest that for me. I think it may do so. This is my birthday month, and although I'm having a no-buy year, that doesn't mean that my friends and family won't buy me yarn for my birthday. So I've put the energy out there, and I've made hints to my partner. So we may yet see this knit up in the next few months. So yes. So that is the final yarn in the haul from my auntie. So thank you, auntie. You are very, very kind, sharing your yarn stash with me. You know it will be used and loved. So that kind of ends our episode today, and I was going to go through some of the other yarns in my stash that I've kind of fallen in love with, but I don't really have much to share on those yet, and given that my camera has decided to end my episode for me, I'm going to leave it there for today. But I thoroughly enjoyed sharing all of my whips and cast-ons with you, and getting back into the swing of filming podcasts. I know this has been a little bit of a slow burn, but I hope you stuck with me. And yeah, I can't wait to share progress on things next time. And hopefully next time I can show you a blanket that's like maybe a foot wide or something, and hopefully I'll have a few more finished objects then for you. But until next episode, I hope you have a wonderful March. And I think Easter is early April, so if you celebrate that, have a wonderful time, and I will see you in my next podcast episode. Thanks again for watching, and if you haven't yet liked and subscribed, please do so, and I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.